The plasma cannon charged with a sound like thunder splitting stone. Commander Zarathix of the Krell Empire stood 8 feet tall, her crimson scales gleaming under the harsh lights of the interrogation chamber. Her clawed hand gripped the weapon, aimed directly at the human's chest. "Kneel, human, or I'll end you," she roared, her voice echoing off the metal walls. The human, a man named Jake Morrison, sat calmly in the restraint chair. His hands were bound, his uniform torn and bloodied from 3 days of captivity, but his eyes held something Zarathix had never seen in any prisoner before. Not fear, not desperation, something else entirely. Jake smiled. It wasn't a smirk or a grimace. It was genuine, warm, almost friendly. The kind of smile you'd give a neighbor who didn't know they were about to make a terrible mistake. "You find your death amusing?" Zarathix hissed, stepping closer. The weapon hummed louder, ready to fire. "Your ship is destroyed. Your crew is dead. You are alone, surrounded by my soldiers, in the heart of my fleet. And yet you smile?" "I'm smiling," Jake said quietly, "because you have no idea what you've done." Zarathix felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Not quite doubt, but close. In her 300 years of service to the Krell Empire, she had conquered 17 star systems. She had watched entire civilizations kneel before her might. She had never hesitated, never questioned. But this human's calm was unnerving. "What I've done?" she repeated, her voice dropping to a dangerous growl. "I have captured a human spy. I have secured a victory for the Empire. I have—" "You attacked a human diplomatic vessel," Jake interrupted. His voice remained steady, conversational. "You fired on a ship that was flying under peace banners. You killed 32 diplomats, including Ambassador Helen Price, who was coming here to negotiate a trade agreement. The Empire does not negotiate with inferior species," Zarathix snarled. "I know," Jake said. "That's the problem." Zarathix raised the cannon higher. "You will tell me the location of your homeworld. You will tell me your military codes. You will tell me everything. Or you will die screaming." Jake's smile never wavered. "Commander, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a politician. I'm not even really a spy." He leaned forward slightly, as much as his restraints would allow. "I'm the contingency plan." Before Zarathix could respond, the lights in the chamber flickered. Red emergency lighting kicked in. An alarm began to wail somewhere deep in the ship. Her communication device crackled to life. "Commander! We have multiple contacts emerging from slipspace. Unknown vessels. Human design. Dozens of them." Zarathix's blood ran cold. "Impossible. Our sensors showed no human ships within 10 light years. That's because you weren't looking for the right things," Jake said softly. "You see, Commander, when humanity joined the galactic community 50 years ago, we learned something important. We learned that the universe is full of species like yours. Strong, proud, aggressive. Species that view diplomacy as weakness." The ship shuddered. "Weapon impacts. Multiple hits. So we made a rule," Jake continued. "Every diplomatic mission gets a shadow. Ships you can't see. Ships waiting just outside sensor range. Ships that only reveal themselves if something goes wrong." Another impact. Harder this time. The floor tilted slightly. "And Commander?" Jake's smile finally faded, replaced by something harder. Something that made Zarathix take an involuntary step backward. "When you killed Ambassador Price, you didn't just murder 32 diplomats. You murdered someone's mother, someone's wife, someone's friend. And now, the people who loved her are here." The chamber door exploded inward. Armored figures poured through, moving with practiced precision. Human soldiers. Their weapons, trained on every Krell in the room. Zarathix swung her cannon toward them. But a bolt of energy struck her hand. The weapon clattered to the floor. Pain lanced up her arm. "You wanted me to kneel. Jake said, as the soldiers released his restraints. He stood slowly, rubbing his wrists. But humans don't kneel to bullies. Commander, we learned that lesson a long time ago, on our own world. We fought wars against tyranny for centuries. We toppled empires. We freed ourselves. Again and again, no matter the cost. He walked past her, pausing only briefly. You thought we were weak because we came in peace. That's your first mistake. You thought we were alone because you couldn't see our ships. That's your second mistake. And your third mistake? He looked back at her, and in his eyes, Zarathix finally saw what she should have seen from the beginning. Not the eyes of prey, the eyes of a predator who had chosen mercy, until mercy was no longer an option. Your third mistake, Jake said quietly, was thinking that smile meant I was happy. I wasn't. I was just sad for you, because now you're going to learn what humans are really like when you hurt the people we love. The soldiers escorted him out. Zarathix sank to her knees, not from command, but from the weight of realization. Outside the chamber, the sounds of battle raged, the pride of the Krell fleet, crumbling under an assault they never saw coming. She had wanted the human to kneel. Instead, she had brought her entire empire to its knees, and the human had smiled, because he had known. He had known all along. The tactical display showed a nightmare. 73 human vessels, each one broadcasting the same message on all frequencies. It was a woman's voice, cold and clear. This is Captain Linda Hayes of the Human Defense Fleet. You have attacked a diplomatic mission. You have violated every law of civilized space. You have one chance to surrender. Choose wisely. Zarathix watched her command ship, the Worldbreaker, take another hit. Shields at 40% and falling. Around her, the rest of the Krell fleet fared no better. The human ships moved like nothing she had ever seen. Fast, coordinated, relentless. Her second in command, a younger officer named Court Axe, stared at the display in disbelief. How are they doing this? Their technology is barely a century old. We have conquered the stars for 10,000 years. Zarathix understood now, too late. They didn't need 10,000 years. They compressed all of their evolution into one violent planet. Every advancement they made came from war. Every technology born from necessity. They didn't conquer the stars slowly. They exploded into space because they finally ran out of enemies at home. Rum. W2 Hun. The snowed of enclose. Another message came through. This time, on a private channel. Jake Morrison's face appeared on her screen. He was on a human ship now. No longer bound. No longer helpless. Commander Zarathix, he said. I'm giving you one chance, because that's what Helen would have wanted. She believed in peace. She believed that even aggressive species could learn to coexist. I'm not sure I believe that anymore, but I'm willing to honor her memory. And life. Zarathix's pride warred with her survival instinct. You expect the Krell Empire to surrender to you? We are warriors. We would rather die than die, Jake said simply. But understand what you're choosing. Every ship in this fleet is crewed by volunteers. People who knew Helen. People who served with her. People who believed in her mission. You didn't just kill diplomats, Commander. You killed our hope that species like yours could change. The Worldbreaker shuddered again. Shields at 20%. We don't want your empire, Jake continued. We don't want your territory. We don't even want revenge, though we'd be justified. What we want is simple. We want you to understand that humans can't be bullied, can't be threatened, can't be conquered. Because we've spent our entire history fighting people like you, and we've gotten very, very good at it. Kordax turned to her. Commander, shields are failing. If we don't surrender, I know, Zarathix said quietly. She had led fleets across the galaxy. She had stared down enemies without flinching. But she had never faced anything like this. An enemy that gave warnings. An enemy that offered mercy. An enemy that was somehow more terrifying because of it. She opened the fleet-wide channel. All Krell vessels. Power down weapons. Prepare to be boarded. The words tasted like ash in her mouth. But the alternative was extinction, and even her pride couldn't deny that reality. The human ships stopped firing immediately. No final volleys. No victory shots. They simply held position. Weapons. Trained. Waiting. Jake's face remained on her screen. Smart choice. Your crews will be treated according to interstellar law. Your ships will be impounded pending investigation. And you, Commander, will stand trial for the murder of 32 diplomats. And if I refuse? Zarathix asked, already knowing the answer. Then this conversation ends, and the shooting starts again. Your choice. She had no choice. That was the cruelest part. The humans had stripped away every option until only one remained. They had been thorough, precise, overwhelming, everything a superior military force should be. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had called humans inferior, weak, unworthy of respect. She had been wrong about everything. Human Marines boarded the Worldbreaker an hour later. They moved through the corridors with weapons ready, but without the cruelty she expected. They didn't gloat, didn't threaten. They were professionals doing a job, and somehow, that was worse than if they had been vengeful. One of them, a young woman with dark hair and sharp eyes, approached Zarathix. Commander Zarathix, I'm Lieutenant Amy Foster. You're under arrest for war crimes. You have the right to legal representation under Galactic Treaty 7. Zarathix stood slowly. Her scales felt heavy, her body exhausted. Why? She asked. Why show mercy? We killed your people. Amy's expression hardened. Because that's what separates us from species like yours. We could kill you. We could glass your home world. We could do to you what you've done to others. She paused. But then we'd be no better than you. Helen taught us that. Even now, even after her death, we're trying to honor what she stood for. I don't understand you, Zarathix admitted. Your captain said you've spent your history fighting. You speak of violence and war. Yet you offer mercy. We fight when we have to, Amy said, placing restraints on Zarathix's wrists. But we don't fight because we enjoy it. We fight because sometimes it's the only language bullies understand. The difference is, we never forget what we're fighting for. Peace. Justice. The chance for something better. As they led her through the corridors, Zarathix saw her crew being processed. No beatings, no executions, just calm, methodical documentation. The humans were taking prisoner records, providing medical care to the injured, even offering food and water. This wasn't conquest. This was something else entirely. Jake Morrison waited in the hangar bay where a transport would take her to a human ship. He stood with his arms crossed, watching the processing with tired eyes. You could have destroyed us, Zarathix said as they passed him. Why didn't you? Jake looked at her for a long moment. Because Helen believed that every species deserves a chance to be better. Even ones that kill diplomats. Even ones that refuse to kneel. He stepped closer. Replane 7. With on 7 hard. But understand this, Commander. This is your only chance. Humanity is offering the Krell Empire a choice. Join the galactic community as equals, follow the laws, respect other species, or face isolation. Your empire spans 40 systems. The human sphere now touches 200. We've been making friends while you've been making enemies. Friends? Zarathix's laugh was bitter. The galaxy fears us. The galaxy feared you, Jake corrected. Past tense. Right now, 6 other species are watching what happened here. Species you've bullied. Species you've threatened. And they're seeing that humans don't tolerate that behavior. They're seeing that someone finally stood up to the Krell Empire and won. How long do you think your empire lasts after today? The question hung in the air like a blade. Zarathix had no answer. She had thought the Krell Empire was eternal, unshakable. One battle had shattered that illusion. The transport lifted off, carrying her away from her flagship. Through the window, she watched the world-breaker grow smaller. Around it, human ships maintained their positions, silent guardians, ensuring compliance. She thought about Jake's smile. That calm, knowing smile. He had smiled because he understood something she hadn't. Violence wasn't strength. True strength was knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. True power was having the ability to destroy your enemy and choosing not to. The Krell Empire had conquered through fear and force. They had built their legacy on the broken backs of other species. But humanity had built something different. They had built a network of allies. They had built respect through strength tempered with justice. And in one brutal lesson, they had shown the galaxy what happened when someone crossed the line. The holding cell on the human ship was clean, well lit, and surprisingly comfortable. Zarathix sat on the bench, her mind replaying the past days. Everything she had believed about humans, about their weakness, about their inferiority, had been wrong. A guard brought her food. Real food, not punishment rations. Another small mercy she didn't deserve. On the wall screen, a news broadcast played. She watched as the story spread across the galactic networks. The attack on the diplomatic vessel. The swift human response. The capture of the Krell fleet. Already, ambassadors from other species were calling for sanctions against the Krell Empire. Trade agreements were being suspended. Military alliances were being questioned. In one moment of pride and aggression, she had brought her empire to the brink of collapse. Not through military defeat, though that had been thorough enough, but through diplomatic isolation. The humans had turned her crime into a rallying cry for every species that had ever suffered under Krell domination. A door opened. Jake Morrison entered, carrying a data pad. He sat across from her, his expression neutral. "The trial will begin in 3 days," he said. "You'll have legal representation. The proceedings will be broadcast across the galaxy. Every species will watch as we prove that no one is above the law." "Why tell me this?" Zarathix asked. "Because Helen would have wanted you to understand the process." She believed in transparency. In justice, not revenge. Jake set the datapad down. "I've been authorized to offer you a deal." Zarathix's eyes narrowed. "What kind of deal?" "Testify against your government. Tell the galaxy about the Krell Empire's policies. The systematic aggression. The refusal to honor treaties. The attacks on peaceful species. Help us build a case not just against you, but against the system that created you." Jake leaned forward. "In exchange, we'll recommend a reduced sentence. 20 years instead of life." "You want me to betray my empire?" "I want you to tell the truth," Jake corrected. "There's a difference. Your empire has been committing war crimes for centuries. Everyone knows it. But no one has been strong enough to call you out, until now. We have the power to end the Krell Empire's reign of terror. But it'll be faster, cleaner, and cost fewer lives if we do it through legal means." Zarathix felt the weight of the choice. Loyalty to an empire that would discard her the moment she became inconvenient, or cooperation with an enemy that had shown more honor than her own leaders ever had. "What happens if I refuse?" "Then you go to trial, get convicted, and spend the rest of your life in prison, and we dismantle your empire the hard way. More battles, more deaths. But make no mistake, Commander, the Krell Empire is finished. The only question is how much blood gets spilled in the process." She looked at him. This human who had smiled in the face of death. "You really believe you can change the galaxy?" "Helen did," Jake said softly. And she was right about a lot of things. Maybe she was right about this too. Maybe even warriors can learn to put down their weapons and build something better. Zarathix thought about her centuries of service. The battles won, the worlds conquered, the glory of the Krell Empire. And she thought about what that glory had cost. How many species had they crushed? How many civilizations had they erased? I'll testify, she said finally. Not because I believe your human idealism, but because I've seen enough death. If there's a chance to end this without more killing, then I'll take it. Jake nodded slowly. That's all we ask. A chance. That's all Helen wanted too. Just a chance for peace. He stood to leave, but Zarathix called out, Morrison. That smile. When I threatened you, you knew they were coming. Didn't you? Jake paused at the door. I knew someone was coming. We lost communication with the diplomatic ship 12 hours before you attacked. Protocol dictates an immediate response. I didn't know if it would be a rescue team or a battle fleet. But I knew humanity doesn't abandon its people. And I knew that attacking diplomats was a line no one crosses without consequences. So you smiled because you knew we had already lost. No, Jake said. I smiled because I was sad. Sad that it had to come to this. Sad that Helen's dream of peace died with her. Sad that people like you exist in the universe. He looked back at her one last time. But also sad for you. Because I knew what was coming. And I knew you had no idea what you'd started. The door closed behind him, leaving Zarathix alone with her thoughts. Outside the viewport, stars stretched into infinity. Somewhere out there, the Krell Empire was reeling from its defeat. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning that humanity could not be bullied. And somewhere out there, she hoped, Helen's dream of peace might still be possible. Not because species like the Krell had changed their nature, but because species like humanity had shown there was a better way. She had wanted the human to kneel. Instead, she had learned what it meant to stand for something greater than pride. Greater than conquest. Greater than empire. She had learned what it meant to face a species that fought not because they loved violence, but because they loved peace enough to defend it. And in that lesson, delivered with overwhelming force and unexpected mercy, the Krell Empire's age of domination came to an end. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Zarathix kept her word, testifying about the inner workings of the Krell military structure. The orders that came from the High Command. The systematic policies of aggression and expansion. Her testimony, combined with evidence from dozens of other species, painted a picture of an empire built on brutality. The galaxy watched. Species that had suffered under Krell rule found their voices. The evidence was overwhelming. The verdict came swift and unanimous. Guilty on all counts. But true to their word, the humans recommended leniency in exchange for her cooperation. 20 years. With the possibility of parole in 15. As the sentence was read, Zarathix felt something she had never experienced before. Not shame, exactly, but understanding. She understood what she had been part of, what she had helped build, and she understood why it needed to end. In the aftermath, the Krell Empire fractured. Some systems chose peace, reaching out to human mediators to negotiate treaties. Others chose defiance, only to find themselves isolated and alone. The galaxy had changed, and there was no going back. Jake Morrison attended the final day of the trial. As Zarathix was led away to begin her sentence, their eyes met one last time. Was it worth it? She asked him. All of this. The fighting. The trial. Was it worth it? Jake thought about Helen. About the 32 diplomats who had died believing in peace. About the cost of teaching the galaxy that aggression had consequences. Ask me in 20 years, he said. If the galaxy is better then than it is now, then yes, it was worth every moment. Zarathix nodded. I hope you're right, human. For all our sakes. Do I, as she was escorted away, Jake remained in the courtroom. Captain Linda Hayes joined him, her expression weary, but satisfied. "It's done," she said. "The Krell Empire is finished as a military power. The other aggressive species are taking note. We've sent a message." We've... Helen would have preferred we sent a different message, Jake said quietly. But she'd understand why we did what we did. She was always the optimist, Linda agreed. Seeing the best in everyone, even when they didn't deserve it. "Maybe that's what we need to be now," Jake said. The optimists. The ones who believe that even after all this violence, peace is still possible. Linda put a hand on his shoulder. "Then we honor her memory by trying, by being better than the species we fight, by showing mercy when we can, and justice when we must." They walked out of the courtroom together. Two humans, carrying the weight of their actions and the hope of their species. Behind them, the trial ended. But ahead of them, the real work was just beginning. The work of building peace in a galaxy that had known too much war. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the memory of Ambassador Helen Price and 32 other diplomats served as a reminder. A reminder that peace was worth fighting for. That justice demanded action. That mercy and strength were not opposites, but partners in the long struggle toward something better. The human had smiled. Not from joy, but from knowing. Knowing that even in the darkest moments, even when violence seemed inevitable, humanity would never forget what it was fighting for. Not conquest, not domination, not empire, but the simple, profound belief that every sentient being deserved a chance to live in peace. And if you took that chance away from others, humanity would make sure you understood the cost. The story spread across the galaxy. The day the Krell Empire fell. The day humanity showed its true strength. The day a human smiled in the face of death and changed the course of history. And in that smile, civilizations found hope. Hope that the age of conquest was ending. Hope that the age of cooperation might begin. Hope that somewhere among the stars, a better future was possible. All because one human refused to kneel, and in refusing, taught the galaxy what true strength really meant.